didn't mean to kill Austin. Ashlee, I really didn't.
Face the judge.
I really think I did that. I didn't mean to hurt him.
I am sorry for taking our parents and our sins. You know, I wish I could take it back, but reality is that we can't.
I still don't understand myself and the reasons for my atrocious actions. I really don't know. Contrary to what anyone else may tell you, I'm telling you the truth. For me to try and explain would be like making excuses, and there is no excuse.
It is truly an unthinkable act to kill your own family, the same people that gave you a home and a place in life. But it is almost all the more unthinkable to consider a child committing such a crime. Nevertheless, there are children out there that are so mentally twisted that murder is almost second nature to them. Stay tuned to watch kids that murdered their own family react to hearing their sentence read aloud in court. To most of us, it's pretty unimaginable to kill one of your parents in cold blood. However, that is exactly what 16-year-old Sierra Halfseth did. She and her boyfriend, 18-year-old Aaron Guerrero, brutally knifed 45-year-old Daniel Halseth in April 2021. This wasn't the type of thing that just happened on a whim. Rather, the teens carefully planned things out and gathered materials ahead of time. The day before the murder, Aaron ran away from home, and he and Sierra went to the store to purchase a saw, blades, lighter fluid, gloves, and a drop cloth. After killing Daniel, the teens attempted to dismember him and set the house on fire. They then stole his debit card and his car and fled the scene. When Daniel's body was discovered the next day, it was determined that he had been cut and jabbed around 70 times. Check out this haunting video the teens recorded days after the murder. It's enough to send shivers down your spine.
Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Day 3 after murdering somebody.
Whoa! Don't put that on the camera.
To joke about getting away with murder clearly shows that neither of them felt any remorse. They probably thought they were going to get off scotch-free, but this was not the case. Both Sierra and Aaron were found days later in Salt Lake City, Utah. They had withdrawn hundreds of dollars from Daniel's bank account. Both teens were charged with murder with a deadly weapon, arson, conspiracy to commit murder, robbery with a deadly weapon, and fraudulent use of a credit card. They pleaded guilty. Prior to sentencing, Sierra would allege that her father had been abusive towards her and tried to force her to drink alcohol underage. It would also be revealed that both teens' parents had been trying to keep them apart after learning that they planned to run away together to Los Angeles. Watch Sierra stay completely unemotional as she receives her sentence.
You're going to be ordered to pay $2,125 in extradition fees. You're also going to be ordered to pay $5,000 in restitution to victims of crime, and that'll be done jointly and severally with the co-defendant. On count 1, you're going to be sentenced to 48 to 120 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections.
The judge was only just getting started reading off her fate.
On count 4, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 3. On count 5, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 4.
In total, she received life in prison with the possibility of parole after 22 years. Aaron received the same sentence. Nehemiah Greggio grew up in a loving Christian family. His father was a pastor, and he had spent a lot of time within his church community. Despite his good upbringing, there was something very dark about this teen that some people said they could feel within minutes of meeting him. But the community could never anticipate the sadistic killer he would eventually become. In January 2013, Nehemiah's mother said something that frustrated him, and he snapped. He grabbed a .22 caliber rifle and proceeded to gun down his parents and 3 younger siblings. He started with his mother, and the noise awoke his younger brother. Nehemiah then told the child he had killed their mom, but the boy did not believe him until she showed him her bloody face. Unsurprisingly, the child got upset. Then Nehemiah proceeded to kill him next. He later found his 2 little sisters scared and crying, and fired at them too. He then went downstairs and waited for his father to come home. As soon as he did, he fired at them as well. He was arrested the following day after going to church and telling a pastor what he had done. He was charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of child abuse, murders and 3 counts of death of a child under 12 years of age. He admitted to the murders and told law enforcement that he had been having thoughts of killing himself and others. He also admitted that after murdering his family, he had planned to go to the local Walmart and take out more people. Luckily, he did not follow through with that plan. After taking his mother's life, Nehemiah texted his 12-year-old girlfriend and told her what he had done. He even sent her a picture of his mother's gory body and told her he was thinking about murdering members of her family next. Nehemiah had an older sister who was not in the home at the time of the incident. She said she was blindsided by this horrific turn of events, and she helped to raise him, and while he was a difficult child, she never saw this coming.
For me, I never really saw any signs because I thought he was just a rebellious teenager that wanted to do whatever he wanted to, just didn't care to listen to authority, you know, he just wanted to do his own thing.
Prior to his sentencing, Nehemiah addressed his surviving family members and apologized for the massive pain he caused.
I am sorry for taking our parents and our kids. You know, I wish I can take it back, but the reality is that we can't.
He went on to say that he has healed from this whole ordeal.
I want no retaliation. I love you guys, and I want to see the best for y'all. And whatever you may do, and I do pray for you guys to have healing the way I'm having healing.
Nehemiah may have thought that his words would soften the heart of the judge, but it was not to be.
This afternoon, an Albuquerque judge released her decision. Nehemiah Greggio will get life for murdering his parents and 3 younger siblings when he was just 15 years old. This case is unlike any other we've seen in New Mexico because Greggio was sentenced as a minor and had already done his time in juvenile jail.
The judge said that not only did Nehemiah need to be punished for the horrible things that he did, but the community needed to be protected from him.
At the sentencing hearing, Greggio's attorney asked the judge to help him get the treatment he needs rather than putting him behind prison walls.
We have to come up with creative solutions. And that's what I'm asking this court to do, is to come up with a solution. A solution that will give Nehemiah the treatment he needs moving forward.
But ultimately, he was given 3 life sentences for the deaths of his siblings and 7 years for the deaths of his parents. This tragic story occurred on March 19, 2013. Dylan Shoemaker, who was then 16 years old, was babysitting 2 young children that belonged to his girlfriend, Ashlee Smith. One of those children was a 2-year-old boy named Austin. While he was watching Austin, Dylan became frustrated and ended up attacking the poor little boy to death. He was arrested and charged with the child's murder. While the defense tried to say that Dylan never meant to kill Austin, the child's serious injuries suggested otherwise.
Clearly, if a child or any human being is suffering multiple injuries over a period of time, that conduct is not accidental.
He lost his cool, as he said. He got frustrated and he hit the child, but never with the intent to cause serious physical injury or Austin Smith's death.
It is horrific to think of how much the little boy had to suffer during those final hours of his life at the hands of someone that his mother had trusted to take care of him.
I don't think he started that way when he initially hit him. I don't think it initially was intent. I think it became intent. At some point, I think he crossed over into intent.
When he entered the courtroom to face his charges, Dylan became emotional and called out to the child's mother, trying to get mercy.
I didn't mean to kill Austin. Actually, I really didn't. I really think I did that. I didn't mean to hurt him.
He went on to tell the judge how much he cared about the child whom he brutally to death.
I would give my life for Austin. I loved him a lot.
Dylan was clearly trying to appear remorseful, but the judge knew the truth. He had information that Dylan was not aware of that would paint him as a heartless killer, who really thought he could get away with this by appealing to the jury.
The record will show that you admitted that on July 23, 2013, in a phone call to your mother from the holding center, you stated, and I got a quote from the court reporter, "I am a 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury, and they're going to feel sorry for me."
He was ultimately found guilty by the jury and sentenced to 25 years to life behind bars. But he later managed to get an appeal, which will allow him to leave prison after serving 18 years. For now, at least, he remains behind bars.
Then a new picture sheds fresh light on a Treasure Coast teen. This picture of Tyler Hadley taken at a party hours after he allegedly beat his mom and dad to death with a hammer. It is a picture his best friend says Hadley claimed would be his last. But it is not. Hours later, Hadley would be arrested, booked, and now he faces 2 charges of second-degree murder.
Can you imagine brutally killing your own parents and then throwing a big party directly afterwards? That's what 17-year-old Tyler Hadley did on July 16th, 2012 in Port Lucia, Florida. Tyler didn't kill his parents on a whim. He planned it out days before and thought that it would be cool to throw a party afterwards. On the day of the murders, he posted, "Party at my crib tonight, maybe," on his Facebook page. Tyler considered every detail of the murders and even thought to lock the family's black lab outside ahead of time because he believed the dog would probably try to protect his parents. He then took 3 illegal pills and proceeded to carry out the unthinkable. He started with his mother, 47-year-old Mary Jo Hadley. He stood behind her while she was sitting in the living room working on her computer. He then began to attack her over the head with a hammer. When Tyler's father, 54-year-old Blake, heard Mary Jo's screams, he ran to her rescue. But tragically, Tyler managed to kill them both. That night, he proceeded to throw a big party with around 60 people in attendance in the same home where he had just committed murder. Several people would later report smelling foul odors at the house that night. Tyler didn't try to conceal the murders and even confessed to his best friend, Michael Mandel, telling him what he did. Michael ended up going into the master bedroom where he found the bodies. Michael did not inform law enforcement immediately, but shockingly remained at the party with Tyler for hours before calling a hotline to report the crime. By that point, the news of what Tyler had done had already spread quickly around town, and he was arrested the following day.
Tyler Hadley shared a dark secret with his best friend. That friend told us that Hadley planned to kill himself if and when discovered a gruesome crime scene in his parents' bedroom. Tyler Hadley and Michael Mandel took this picture Saturday night. It was the last picture Mandel thought he'd ever take with his best friend.
Michael spoke with the local news station and reported what he said went down.
After he told me, I didn't believe him because he's been my best friend forever. I would never suspect anything like this. And I was looking around. He told me if I look good enough, I can see signs. I looked on the floor, I could see signs of blood. And that's when I went around back and looked in his parents' bedroom.
Tyler had one thing going in his favor as he faced the justice system: his age.
Tyler Hadley is a few months shy of his 18th birthday, so he is not eligible for the death penalty. He does face life in prison if convicted for murdering his parents. It's something Michael Mandel still can't comprehend, even after seeing it with his own eyes.
Michael explained in detail the horrific scene that he viewed in that master bedroom. It's a sight that he will likely never be able to get out of his head.
I saw bloody sheets piled everywhere. I saw broken pictures with blood on them, and I looked down and I saw his dad's leg.
Mandel says the two have been friends for years, though Hadley started getting into trouble around the age of 15.
Tyler had been in trouble with both using and selling narcotics. He would also frequently complain about getting into arguments with his parents. He said that rap music and his parents' financial troubles would affect his poor decisions. So you may be wondering why Michael would have wanted a selfie with someone who had just admitted to killing his own parents. It was apparently because he knew that this would be the last chance they would likely ever have to be in a picture together.
After I found his parents, I knew it was going to be the last time I seen him. This is that look on his face. You could see the horror in his face. That's not normal Tyler.
Tyler's lawyer entered a not guilty plea on his behalf. His brother was brought in to testify during the trial. He explained how he and Tyler used to be close before Tyler went down a bad path in life. He would reportedly steal his parents' car keys and debit card. He was asked if it was up to him, what fate would he like to see his brother face?
Well, I guess what I want is for him to get the maximum penalty possible, which I understand is life in prison without parole.
Tyler was ultimately convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the chance of parole. Years later, in December of 2018, his sentence was changed to just life in prison. If he will ever get parole is unclear. While in court, Tyler took responsibility for his actions.
I still don't understand myself and the reasons for my atrocious actions. I really don't know. Contrary to what anyone else may tell you, I'm telling you the truth. For me to try and explain would be like making excuses. and there is no excuse.
Tyler's uncle also tearfully addressed the court.
That's my brother there. We loved him very, very much.
After the hearing, Tyler's uncle, Mike Hadley, said this experience was like a third funeral for him.
We'll never forget. We'll live with this for the rest of our life. He gave us a life sentence.
Daniel Petrick was just 16 years old when an argument with his parents over a video game turned tragic. Daniel did not start out as a violent person. He was well behaved in school, got good grades, and was reportedly fun to be around. He grew up in a religious family and would often read the Bible. But his life would take a dark turn when he sustained a spinal injury while skiing. As a result of his injury, Daniel had to spend a whole year at home recovering. During all this time he spent homebound, he would get into violent video games, including Halo 3. Sometimes he would play as long as 18 hours in one day. Daniel's father, Mark, did not approve of Halo 3 because of the violence and confiscated the game. He then locked it away in his private safe. This, of course, made Daniel enraged. He was known to have violent outbursts in which he would take out his anger by kicking doors and walls. But this time, he would take things to a whole different level. On October 20th, 2007, Daniel had been without his video game for a week, and he decided he was going to get it back. He managed to find the key to unlock his dad's safe, and once he opened it, he not only took the game, but also his dad's gun. He proceeded to walk up behind his parents who were sitting on the couch, and then he uttered these haunting words. "Would you close your eyes? I have a surprise for you." He then killed them both, and then put the gun in his father's hand with the intention of making it look like his father had committed the crime before taking his life. Just moments later, Daniel's older sister and husband arrived at the home for a planned visit, and when they saw the disturbing scene, they immediately called 911. Daniel slipped out the door and tried to drive to a friend's house, but was arrested before he could get there. He then lied to law enforcement, saying that his dad killed his mom before turning the gun on himself.
I was sitting in my room, and then my dad was just yelling, just screaming at my mom. My dad walked into his bedroom, and then walked back out, and then I ran out there, and my mom had been he pointed the gun at me, and then he said he was sorry, and then he himself.
If he thought he could trick detectives, he clearly underestimated them.
You know, we've all been around somebody who they're kind of boo-hooing, but they're not crying, and there's a difference. In a situation where somebody just witnessed their father, their mother, and themselves, it's very emotional, it's very traumatic, but there wasn't the emotion you typically see.
Daniel was charged with aggravated murder, attempted murder, and tampering with evidence. While his mother, Susan, passed away from her injuries, his father managed to recover.
I was in the hospital for, I think, 30 days. They did 5 surgeries on me. Reconstruction surgeries to my eye socket, the roof of my mouth, my jaw, just all kinds of stuff. I couldn't stop thinking about what happened that night. And the more I thought about it, the more I wanted to kill him.
But despite everything, through time and through his strong faith, Mark has managed to eventually forgive his son for everything he did. He even stood beside him on trial and tried to get him a lesser sentence. He told the court that he believed that his son didn't know what he was doing when he killed his mother, and that if he hadn't been so obsessed with violent video games, this likely would never have happened.
So did you think, I'm gonna go get a gun and I'm gonna kill my dad?
I did. I went in my room and I was mad. I told my dad, hang on, I got something I want to show you. I went and grabbed a gun.
Because Daniel was underage at the time of the murder, he could not be sentenced to life in prison without parole. Instead, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 22 years. This was the minimum sentence he could have received. Daniel will be eligible for parole in the year 2030. Seth Privacki of Michigan was said to be a well-behaved, quiet kid. However, he went down a dangerous path later in high school when he began dabbling in narcotics and alcohol and ultimately got caught stealing beer from a store. He was sentenced to 10 days in a youth detention center and probation. Unfortunately, his life of crime would not end there. Over Thanksgiving weekend of 1998, Seth went out to purchase a .22 caliber gun, but because he wasn't old enough, he was not allowed to get it. The following day, he and his family had planned to have a holiday dinner together, but things were tense in the home. He had reportedly been arguing with his father for weeks and was angry after his car was taken away because he received a C on a report card. His father had also reportedly threatened to kick him out. Consumed by rage, Seth went on to retrieve his father's gun. He waited until his dad left to go pick up his grandfather, and then he went into the living room and killed his brother. When his father and grandfather returned, he quickly fired at both of them as well. He then went upstairs, waited for his mom to get out of the shower, and fired at her. His last victim was likely unplanned. It was his brother's girlfriend who walked into the home and saw the bodies, so he gunned her down too. Following the murders, Seth called a friend to help him clean up the crime scene. While they were doing so, the parents of his brother's girlfriend came to the house looking for her. This caused him and the friend to flee the scene. He was found hours later hiding in a barn and arrested. How could a teenager take out 5 people like it's nothing? We may never know.
That's the one baffling part of this case, that to this day we can't understand why he committed this mass murder.
Seth was sentenced to life in prison without parole. However, in 2010, he was killed during a failed escape from prison. He was 30 years old.
Concord County 911, where is your emergency?
My house.
What's the address?
152 River Creek Lane.
Okay, what's the emergency?
I just killed my mom and my sister.
What?
I just killed my mom and my sister.
In 2012, Jake Evans was just 17 years old when he made the decision to take out his mother, Jamie Evans, and his little sister, Mallory Evans. He then called 911 to turn himself in, and he strangely couldn't really explain why he made the decision to do this.
Okay, is there any reason that you were so angry at your mother and your sister?
I don't know, I wasn't, it's weird, I wasn't even really angry with them. It just kind of happened. I've been kind of planning on killing for a while now.
The two of them, or just anybody?
Pretty much anybody.
Why?
I don't know, I don't really like people's attitude.
Despite seeming weirdly calm and emotionless while on the phone with the 911 dispatcher, he did acknowledge that the memory of what he had just done was going to bother him in the future.
No, this is really gonna mess me up for this, in the future. See, my sister, I told my sister that my mom needed her.
Mm-hmm.
She was in her room, and she came out of her room, and I her, and she rolled down the stairs, and I again, and then I went down and I Mom about maybe 3 or 4 times, but I'll never forget this.
Okay, that's fine.
Jake was arrested without incident. He was charged with capital murder and denied bail. He pled guilty to all his charges.
And the attorneys agreed he will serve 2 45-year prison sentences running concurrently. His attorney read from a letter from Evans' family.
We feel that this is a fair plea bargain under all circumstances, even though our family would support a lesser sentence than 45 years.
The malice that it would take to set a fire in the bedroom where the child is in the crib sleeping. A burn pattern that goes from underneath that child towards the door of the bedroom. That is caused by likely something. It's a significant burn pattern as he described it. It could have been alcohol, it could have been something else that gets consumed by the fire.
Jacob Morgan was 17 years old when he was accused of setting a fire that killed his 14-month-old stepbrother. He apparently appeared incredibly distraught in court as he heard just how bad things were looking for him. Despite the fact that he pleaded guilty to setting the fire in March 2015, this is a controversial case, as his family believes that he is innocent and the fire was an accident. They also say he deeply loved his little brother. But the prosecutor said that Jacob stood outside of his mobile home and simply watched as it burned while the child slept inside. He did not call for help or make any effort to save the baby, which showed malice. The case was further complicated by the fact that Jacob has developmental issues and has trouble reading and writing. He is also autistic. His family believes he likely had trouble understanding what he was being asked while being interrogated by law enforcement. This interrogation went on for hours and was not recorded. Law enforcement said that Jacob gave them multiple accounts of what he said happened that day of the fire. At one point, he said he got a pillow too close to the heater, which caused it to catch fire. But at a different time, he said that he lit the pillow on fire and then threw it in the air. Fire experts said that there were at least 2 fires set in the home that day. It's hard to imagine that they both would have happened by accident. Jacob was convicted and sentenced to 15 years behind bars. His story spread near and far and gained a lot of attention on social media. Some people come to his defense, saying that his trial was not fair. There is also a lot of misinformation about this case, including a rumor that Jacob was sentenced to over 100 years in prison. This is not true. If these horrific stories prove anything, it is that it doesn't matter how young a person may be. If you are truly deranged and sick, you are capable of murder at any age. In mere moments, each one of these teens changed their lives forever and ruined their own futures. But like it almost always is, justice was served for the victims. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more.